start with something that you know and you understand. If you just read online that, the 10 short-term rentals in Kokomo, Indiana are doing really well, I'm going to go buy there, like, you're going to fail.
This is the Better Life Podcast, where we talk about real estate investing, building wealth, and all in all living a better life. My name is Brandon Turner, and I've spent my life investing in real estate to achieve financial freedom. And alongside my co-host, Mr. Cam Cathcart, we want to help you do the same. On the show, you're going to hear from world-class guests who have been handpicked to help you level up your investing, your leadership, your goals, your habits, and more to become the very best version of yourself. So join us as we explore the habits, the actions, the beliefs that it takes to build wealth through real estate investing without losing your soul.
We set our sights on a better life.
This is the Better Life Podcast with Brandon Turner and
Cam Cathcart.
Cam Cathcart. It is good to hang out again.
Dude, it's so good. You've been out of town way
I've
too
been
much
out of town
lately.
for like 3 weeks. Went to Disney World with the kids. That was awesome, and it was terrible, and all the things that Disney World is. It was a good time. Here, 3 things to do Disney rich. Let me explain. If you have money and you want to be like do Disney right, and you have a little bit of money and you want to be like rich, here's 3 things. Number 1, VIP tour. We did 1 day of VIP where they take you like backstage and like behind all the stuff, and you don't have to wait for any line whatsoever. That was cool. It's expensive. It's like $800 an hour or something crazy like that. But you can have 10 people, so it's really like $80 an hour. So whatever. That was cool. Minivans. They're like these little like Lyft or Uber like Lyft vans. They're awesome. They buzz you all around right to the front gate of everything. And it's like a little more than like Uber and Lyft, but it's worth it. And stay at the Four Seasons Orlando.
Love it.
It's the best hotel I've ever been to.
How would you do it if you're more like upper middle class?
There is a Super 8 right off the freeway, about 6 miles from Disney World. No, I grew up this way. I went to Disney World, lower middle class my whole life. You do the, what's it called? The timeshare presentation.
Yes.
You get free tickets to Disney. And third, you can take the actual city bus for like $1.50 to Disney. I don't know if that's true. I made that up. I think
last one, it sounds right.
It sounds true, right? All right, Cam, what about you? What have you been doing since I've left?
Oh, man. Been working? Yes, but our kids started school yesterday.
Yeah, they're going to school together.
Which was a blast. What have I been doing? I have not been working out.
You did yesterday, though.
I did work out
You're going right after this, right?
I'm going to head there. I'm going to head there right after this. I'm going to get a nice little, I brought pre-workout with me. I'm going to sit in the sauna. Going to get a pump in.
If you want to, at 5 o'clock tonight, we're doing cold plunge. Brian's coming over. Brian's coming over to do a little cold plunge at 5. So you can go to the gym and then head to my house at 5.
Cold plunge and sauna?
Yeah. Cold plunge sauna at my house at 5 o'clock.
Done.
All right. Time to get into the show. Today's guest is Avery Carl. She is amazing. We did a great interview with her talking about not just short-term rentals, but she is a short-term rental expert, perhaps the most well-known short-term rental expert in America today. We talked to her about short-term rentals, but also her long-term portfolio. We talked about...
She's got 250 long-term.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing.
I know everyone knows there's a short-term person, but she got 250 units. Talked about kids, husband, business outside of real estate, and which is more important.
Yeah.
All sorts of stuff.
It was a great conversation.
Yeah, well, we're going to get to it right now. So thanks all for listening to the show. If you've not yet left us a rating and or a review inside of whatever app you're listening to this on, Spotify or, Apple or whatever, please do so. It helps us more than you know. It helps us to grow and reach more people with the message that you can build wealth and financial freedom without losing your soul. So share the news and enjoy today's episode. This episode is brought to you by our friends at TurboTenant and Ballpoint Marketing. These 2 companies are big supporters of the show, and they know how to work with real estate investors and help real estate investors grow their businesses. So be sure to stay tuned to hear how you can get, discounts and free stuff from them both. And as you probably know, all the profits from this show go to charities of the guest choosing. So when you listen to the sponsors on the show and you work with these hand-chosen by me sponsors, you're actually doing good for the world. Now let's get to the show. Avery Carl, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So I interviewed you back in the day on Bigger Pockets, I think maybe a couple times. But for those who were not there, let me give you a quick intro of who I know you as. So I know you as a short-term rental expert. But I also know you as an actual, like, normal, traditional, what do we call normal real estate investor? Like a non-short-term rental. I think you have 250, I think I read that, 250 doors. Yeah, that's wild. I know you were a former college soccer player. Is that right? That can't ride a bike still to this day. I cannot ride a bicycle, no. We're going to learn today on the show. So that's, you also, this was shocking to me. The short-term shop is a brokerage that you own.
So we are brokered by EXP. I have to say that or else I get in trouble. So it's a team.
Yeah. Brokerage. Yeah. Okay. I like EXP. So You've done 3.5 billion in transactions,
Yes.
and all you do is short term with that brokerage. All you do is short term vacation rentals.
Yep. Yep. Only investors. If somebody wants to come sell their primary house with us or buy one, we send them elsewhere.
Really?
There's a great discussion I would love to have, but not necessarily right now. Maybe we'll get to it later. But around like the power of niching down like that, like, it's so good in any part of business, right? It's so good. But before we get to all that, that's who I know you as. But take us back before all of that. Who was Avery Carl?
Oh, goodness. Who was Avery Carl? So Avery Carl, I guess we'll start like when I got into real estate and why.
Yeah.
So I was working in the music business in Nashville, what I thought was
Were you really?
my dream job. Yeah.
What were you doing there?
I was a marketing manager,
Okay.
a music publishing business. I had in another life. So I graduated undergrad, the worst time to ever graduate in the spring of 2009. So there were no jobs. And so I bartended and I played in sloppy punk rock bands and got to tour the world doing
What
that.
did you play?
Guitar.
Really?
Yeah.
Punk rock bands.
Punk rock bands.
Any that we would know?
No, nothing anybody's ever heard of.
I literally just texted my buddy Seth yesterday, the producer in Nashville, and I was like, dude, let's do a side project and do a punk rock band.
Seth Mosley.
Yeah. You know him?
I
Seth?
worked for his publishing company, so I don't know him personally, or not his music rights company. It's called CSAC, and so I saw his name all the time. I heard him on Bigger Pockets, like back around that time that I was working. So
yeah, Seth Mosley is one of my favorite humans on the planet. But anyway, and he was like, yes, let's do it. So I got Matt Weir, my CTO, and I got he's a drummer, a professional drummer, actually drums for a bunch of ridiculously hardcore bands. Yeah, he's really good. And then I got me.
Nice.
Now I got Avery.
What about me?
Avery, let's go back to all right, so punk rocker, that's cool. Did you have cool hair? Was it like shaved? Was it shaved?
No, never went that far. Never went that. I had kind of like a Joan Jett kind of mullet thing.
Okay, that's cool.
Did that. Yeah.
All right.
No shave though. Didn't go
Mullets are in.
Yeah.
Mullets all in right now. Look at Cam.
That's pretty cool.
It's really
a good
dirty.
Nice dirty mullet.
Dirty mullet. All right, so you did that. So how did you then discover, I want to get into real estate? Like, where'd that come from?
Very much by accident. So kind of a culmination of things. One of which was, so my husband Luke and I got married, and he still works in the music business. He was a full-time DJ on Sirius XM back then, classic rock. And he was on 12 hours a day. Now he just does it on the weekends for fun because we've got the real estate business. But back then, we just got married and we'd saved up like, I don't know, like $7,000. And I got super into personal finance and I was real into Dave Ramsey and just trying to make sure we do everything right. And so we went to an Edward Jones office that was in the same building as my corporate job. And we would go to talk to this financial advisor. We're like, we don't know what to do with this. What should we do with this $7,000 that we have? And she pretty
retire. You're done.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
Yeah. She told us we didn't have enough money for her to bother with in a very nice way. And so we left and we were like, oh, cool. We're losers.
It's funny when you're at that level, though, you think $7,000 is so much money. You're like, I am the richest person I know. I got $7,000 in my account. All my family and friends are broke.
Yeah.
And you realize you have nothing.
Yeah.
That's I love Dave Ramsey, but he doesn't teach you how to make more money.
No.
Yeah.
It's just saving money.
He plays defense.
Defense.
He teaches how to play defense, which is great.
Yeah.
But I still think to like be successful in the Dave Ramsey model, you have to make enough money to save it.
Correct.
Whereas like when I never had enough money to save money, it was paycheck to paycheck. So I was like, I'll never be able to get ahead.
Yeah.
I didn't ever sell my car and bike to work. Like he would tell you to do.
He would tell you to do that.
Yes, but
I can't. I couldn't have.
Yeah.
you don't know how to buy it. So you're
all right. Why don't you bring in the bike? We're gonna have
bike. Yeah.
Just kidding. That'd be funny of a prop to like we bring in a bike. We're like, all right, we're doing it. All right, we're not. All right. So you realized you couldn't just invest that money with whatever. And
yeah. So we're like, okay, well now what do we do? And we had just moved to Nashville from New York City. I did not have my real estate license yet. And our agent at the time was really trying to get us to buy in East Nashville, which is the super hipster area. And she said, homes are appreciating 50 to 100,000 a year over here. This is where you need to buy. And we said, no, we just moved from Brooklyn to Tennessee. We're done with neighbors. We want to be out in the country. So we bought something out in the country, but we kind of thought back about that and said, like, looked at buying it. We didn't even know it was called real estate investing, but we're going to buy a rental house through the Dave Ramsey lens, which was none of this was right. So we said, well, what if we buy one of those houses and put a renter in it so we're not having to pay the mortgage? And then in 25 years, when our future kids need to go to college, we can sell it and pay for their college. And we won't have to come out of pocket and we'll be these geniuses.
Yeah.
So we did that. And we bought a house and it cash flowed $900 over the mortgage every month. And we paid $122,000 for it, which I was making about $1,000 a month after all the deductions on my W-2, because the music business in Nashville or anywhere, people will do it for basically nothing, and they will work all day and night just to say they were in a room with like Kenny Chesney or some other stupid country singer. And
Whoa. Kenny Chesney. Is he really
well,
do you know Kenny Chesney?
I do not know.
Okay.
So I'm not super into country.
Don't say
Really?
that.
I like old country. I like Dolly and Willie. And
Have
you
you
know,
been listening to the new Post Malone stuff?
Dude,
No, I haven't.
yours is the
Is it good?
best song that I've
Post Malone is the best country music like artist for being a not country music artist. He's the best country music artist right now.
I'll have to check it out.
Check it out. I
It's
mean, for
good.
being I don't know, what do you call him? A rapper? For being a whatever he was.
I mean, he's been all over.
He's been
the
everywhere.
place. That's what, and he seems like a cool dude too.
I know, yeah.
Anyway,
Keep going.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, anyway, for that reason, the music business just does not pay very much. And so I woke up and I'm like, this house is making as much money as I make to go sit in this office all day. And we said, well, we got to buy more of these. We got to figure out how to do more of these. And so then only after we'd already bought our first house, most people do this the other way, we started listening to Bigger Pockets and learning, like, this is an actual business. We can do this. And we only had enough money. This is about 6-8 months down the road, enough money for the down payment on one more single family house. And we said, well, what can we buy that's going to make us the most amount of money the fastest? And this was in 2015. So there were not YouTubers, there were not gurus, there was not courses, none of that. And we said, well, how about a short-term rental? And we didn't want to do it in Nashville because Nashville was already getting kind of anti-short-term rental. So we wanted to do it in a market where it was the normal thing to stay in something other than a hotel, like a cabin, condo, beach house. And we just been in the Smoky Mountains where we stayed in a cabin. And our friends had rented cabins, so we figured somebody owns these cabins. Why don't we buy one of these and try that out? And so we did. And during the course of that transaction, realized that the average property management split back then was 40% of your gross. And we were like, wait a minute, no, we need this.
Yeah.
We need that 40% to go buy more. So we figured out how to manage short-term rentals remotely. And again, there's 1,000 courses on this now, but there were not then. And we just kind of figured it out and scaled that one to 5 over the course of the next year and a half. Once we got enough cash flow coming in, we started throwing in a long-term rental in Chattanooga here and there, duplexes. Chattanooga is a big duplex city.
really?
Yeah. Whole neighborhood.
I like Chattanooga
Yeah.
a lot. Like as a town, but also as an investment market.
Mhm. Yeah. And then the rest is history. And then we've got 8 short-term rentals now, and then a mix of single-family, long-term, and multifamily.
Where are those all located at? Are they all over the place, or are they primarily Nashville?
They're all over the place. So none in Nashville. We sold that Nashville one, I guess in 2021. And we've got 5 short-term vacation rental cabins in the Smokies. We've got 3 beach houses in the Destin, 30A, and Cape San Blas area, which we live in 30A now. And then all of our long-terms are scattered throughout the Southeast and the Midwest.
So you've kind of distinguished a few times now, and I'm curious why. The short-term rental, you say, well, vacation rental. Is that different in your mind? Is that terminology different, and why one versus the other?
Yes. So vacation rentals would be, and we only focus on vacation rentals, and I can kind of get into why.
In your brokerage or personally, or both?
Both.
Okay.
Our investments, and then also with the brokerage side of things. So we only buy vacation rentals in vacation markets. So what I mean by that is beach houses that only exist for tourists to come stay in them. We are not going into metro and suburban markets and buying houses that somebody's grandma could have moved into, or starter homes, things like that. We focus only on true vacation markets.
Why is that?
Well, a number of reasons. So the initial reason was because in our minds, and AirDNA came out the year after we started investing, so there really wasn't a lot of data back then either, but if you look at the tourism in a market, so let's take like Smoky Mountains or like where we live in Destin. Destin, I think, gets 10 million visitors a year. And so in our minds, we wanted to be, and this still holds true, like through all the experience we now have, it has been correct. I would rather have a $10 million pool to fish in, or pond to fish in. I mean, sorry, a 10 million visitor pond to fish in than like a 10,000 visitor. So in a seasonal market like the beach markets where we live, we really only have to get 30 people of those 10 million to book us a year. Same thing with the Smokies, 20 million there. It's not as seasonal, so you got to get maybe 100 of those 20 million. So I'd much rather be fishing in a big pond of tourists than a small pond of, well, maybe somebody's going to be coming to visit their mom and doesn't want to stay there. So that was the initial reason. And then now, as time's gone on and there's been affordability problems in suburban markets and metro markets, like that's not really something I want to get involved in myself. So
I mean, the cities are coming after short-term rentals like in almost every major city in America. I mean, there's just one after another just falling into these rules. And like, I understand why they're doing it. They're like, they're desperate for more affordable housing. And it's like, well, you turned all these houses into short-term rentals. Let's turn them back into housing. I've heard some people argue, and I don't know the numbers, that like even if you turned every single solitary vacation rental back into a house, it doesn't even put a dent in the affordability problem. Like,
right.
It was
nothing. The economy.
Yeah.
It was COVID.
Yeah, there's a lot of other problems here. But it is an easy scapegoat, though, for a government to say, well, and like places like here, like in Maui, where we live, they did away with short-term rentals years ago. I mean, like other than the nice places along the beach, like I have a couple here, and they're going to do away with, potentially, there's a legislation going through right now, they're going to do away with another 2/3 of them. Even the good ones, like the ones that were like, they're on the beach. The only people ever going to go there are people who are on the beach, but they have such an affordability problem. The only solution they were looking at is, well, you take them from the condos now.
But then that'll hurt the tourism industry, which will come back to hurt.
It's billions of dollars in like lost revenue, and they're just like, well, but we need housing, and like it's a hard choice. Like,
it really is.
Yeah. What do you do? I mean, what do you do? The easy answer, you allow building, but they don't want to do that. Like, you allow new construction, and if you allowed apartments to get built, that would drive down revenue. I mean, drive down rents, and it would drive down the cost of housing, but they just won't do that. So instead, they'll take vacation rentals.
What's your favorite vacation rental market?
Oh, that's really tough. That is a really tough one. So I really love the Emerald Coast, the Panhandle of Florida. But I think I have to. The Smoky Mountains have been so good to me and my career that I think I have to.
You don't feel like that's oversaturated? Because I mean, I feel like everybody I know who's in short-term rentals are doing the
Smoky Mountains.
Smokies.
Yeah. So the market itself, I would not say is saturated, but there are certain bedroom counts that are. So like I'm about to buy a 1-bedroom there. I've got a studio there. I've got 2 other 1-bedrooms that we've had forever. But the way the development's going in the Smokies, like, yes, they're building tons and tons of cabins, but it doesn't make sense for the builders to build 1 and 2 bedrooms. They make a lot more money on building big 5 bedrooms and up. So all of that building that has happened over the past 4 or 5 years, all high occupancy cabins. And also something that I think where a lot of investors make mistakes about really truly understanding their markets. We can get to that later. But a lot of builders have kind of made the mistake of going too big in luxury in the Smokies. Because at the end of the day, the Smokies is a very blue collar vacation market. This is not Aspen. And what's happened is people are like, oh, there's no luxury vacation rentals in the Smokies, which is true. But the Smokies has been a vacation rental market since the 50s. And there's a reason that it's not super luxury. It's because the clientele there can't afford it.
Yeah.
These are not, again, the people going to Jackson Hole. So if you're buying a luxury 5-bedroom and up, you might run into that saturation problem a little faster than if you're buying a studio or a 1-bedroom or even a 2-bedroom.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was looking at a market, Branson, Table Rock Lake, because I'm from St. Louis.
Got an agent there.
You do, yeah. But one of the interesting things that we're looking at potentially building like 1-bedroom vacation rentals, and part of that, I talked to somebody there, and they said that there is none of those. Everybody's building 5, 7+ bedrooms that can sleep 20 people. And like if Lexi and I, we don't live there anymore, but if we were to go to Branson, we're not going to spend $1,000 a night for that. We'd spend $250 a night for a nice 1-bedroom somewhere. So it makes a ton of sense.
Hey, hold on one second. We can keep this in, but I'm going to let Matt.
We've got somebody.
That's only joining us for about 3 seconds as he walks.
So you live 30A? That's awesome. Do you love it there?
I do love it there.
You do?
Yes.
How long have you guys been there?
4 years.
4 years?
Hey.
Thank you. Francois, you just saw walking through. He is the head of the 50, the COO of the 50. Today's episode is just kidding. It's not sponsored by the 50. All right. Back where we're
And a dog.
And a dog. It's a great day. All right.
Great day. We were talking about 1-bedroom
Yes.
condos. And so if you're buying in the Smoky Mountain area, do you think like going for that luxury 7 to 10 bedroom is not a great idea?
It just depends on your experience level and your ability to manage. So I don't ever want to say anything, any size or any market is across the board a bad idea, because, it just depends on the deal you're able to get. But I think that looking at what percentage of the market each bedroom count makes up is an important thing to look at.
Is that data like AirDNA has that, or how do you find
AirDNA has that. There's another company that's come out called Revity that I really like. They were in the hotel space. So they had clients like Marriott and Blackstone, that big funds that come to them to do feasibility studies of markets. And they've kind of gotten into the Airbnb space. So they've done like 55 billion in underwrites. And so they've got the same data that the other companies have, like the public scrapes, but they've also got all of the data from all the big property management companies across the country too. So I've been using them lately, kind of liking that.
Yeah, very cool. Who should and who shouldn't invest in short-term rentals?
Oh, such a great question. If you are not someone who wants to take control of your own destiny and get in there and manage and do the work, you should not be in short-term rental. You should go, invest in a syndication. It's not hands-off. I mean, there is no truly passive real estate except investing in a syndication. Even, my long-terms, I'm still getting phone calls about them. We had one burned down, like all kinds of things. So I think that if you're not willing to get your hands dirty, short-term rentals are not for you.
Yeah.
Is it possible to make short-term rentals passive?
It can. Your goals would just have to be different. So by the time you take a 20% management split, you're looking at not cash flowing that much.
Yeah.
But if you just really want to have a place somewhere that your family likes to go and you don't really care how much it cash flows, it can be a good investment to do it that way. But I mean, I think that if you're trying to make it passive, just go find something that is passive instead of try to make something that isn't passive.
Yeah. I feel like you brought up a good point. I feel like most of the money in short-term rentals is actually you just getting paid for running a business, which is called a short-term rental business. That's literally what you're getting paid for. So if you outsource that component of it and you give the whole thing over to property management, there goes almost all your cash flow.
Yeah.
And you can maybe hack it. Like, for example, I have Matt Buck helping with a lot of my stuff because he's got, some experience there. And I've had other people, so I kind of hack it so I can make a little bit more cash flow. Or you just buy so many, you can build it in-house and have your own team. But other than that, I got out of short-term rentals. I got into it 12, 13, 14 years ago for like a year or two. And I got out of it because it was so much work. And I didn't have the scale to be able to hire people to run it. And so I got out of it. So yeah, I think it's good for people to know that it's not necessarily passive from day one, unless you were to give away all your profits to management.
Well, we use and we coach people to use VAs. So once you know how to run it, you can very easily teach an offshore VA how to do it. Yeah. So that can make it more passive, and it's still, it's a lot less than paying a property manager 20%. So that's definitely an option. But I think a lot of people, where they make a mistake is they'll get in, they'll want to hire VAs from day one, and they don't know how to run the business. So they don't know how to train somebody how to run the business, and then they fail.
Are there VA, I'm sure there are there VA companies out there that just specialize in short-term rental management? Do you know of any?
There's a lot of influencers trying to do that. I haven't seen anybody succeed at it yet. But if you go on onlinejobs.ph, like so many people have worked at Airbnb that will come manage your property.
Yeah,
so.
That's cool.
We tried to use some of those like real estate companies that specialize in VAs, and they charge a lot where you can find your own and train them. And so
the chance of being successful is about the same as whether you do it on your own. I feel like it
Yeah,
doesn't
actually,
guarantee they're
we're
good.
using one. Oh, and I'm blanking on the name because I'd love to give him a shout out. He has a real estate company that's specialized in VAs, and the lady that we use with him is amazing.
That's cool.
Is it My Outdesk?
It's not.
No.
It's not, and I'm blanking on the name, but it's amazing. So we use VAs for everything. When it comes to property management. Yeah.
I worry sometimes about saturation with short-term rentals. I mean, in the beginning of short-term rentals, it was like the Wild West. Like,
It was.
right. No, there weren't a lot of regulations. Not a lot of people were doing it. The people that were making tons of money, buying a lot of them. Now they make courses and they teach this stuff. Is that a concern? Like, are there too many of them today?
I think, again, it depends on the market. So I kind of look at saturation. I call them a lot of the markets that people like to talk about being saturated, like the Smokies or Orlando. I like to call them mega markets. So these are areas that have a ton of short-term rentals, but these are also areas that have always had a ton of short-term rentals. So like we live in Destin. My grandmother's been coming and renting short-term rentals since 1930s. So, and it's everything there is a short-term rental and always has been. The entire economy is dependent on tourism. So the reason that and you kind of just have to zoom out and look at it from a very common sense approach. So the reason that certain markets get a ton of short-term rentals and maybe get a ton of attention from influencers who own, like all the big short-term rental influencers own in the Smokies, is because the opportunity is there. Again, you have all that tourism. It's very, very easy. I actually recommend for new short-term rental investors to buy in a market like that because the infrastructure is there. It's very easy to find all the vendors that you need, like even down to the furniture companies are really used to, they're really used to door code culture, like punching in the door code, sticking it in there and leaving. You know, if you're, I don't know, when I lived in Nashville and I needed furniture delivered, I had to be there. We had to sign something. So it's very easy to get up and running in those markets, but it's also very easy to suck. And it's not that hard to be at the top of the heap in terms of, you know, being better than 90% of the rentals. Because if you go on Airbnb right now and look like at all the properties available in Destin to rent, a good 60% of them have like crappy wicker furniture, haven't been updated since 2005. So the vast, the very small minority of people that are actually really, really killing it, like it's not as many people as you would think. It's a lot of like grandma renting out her Destin house when she's not there. So in some markets, yes, there's a ton of properties. There's a ton of people involved that shouldn't be. A ton of people bought real estate in 2021 that should not have. People that thought like, oh, the payment on a beach house is going to be how much? Oh, I can afford that. Let me just slap it on Airbnb when I'm not using it and it'll make money. And then those are the people that have a hard time. So to me, like I don't necessarily run away from those bigger markets like that because the reason that those markets get so many rentals is because the demand from tourism is there.
Would you say so? Like in those markets, 'cause I just read a story the other day that vacation or the revenue from vacation rentals has dropped like 50% in the Smokies. Is that for the people that aren't doing it right? Have like the people that are doing it right still seen solid numbers?
I'm so glad that you asked this question. So we, across our properties in the Smokies, we're down about 8% from 2022. But if you zoom out, the properties that we own prior to COVID since 2015, so let's say we did a little over 80,000 on, we'll use our two bedrooms, for example, a little 80,000 on each of those in 2022.
Per year.
And was that your best year?
That was the best year. They do like the past couple years, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but 75, 80,000. So people are like, oh my God, it's going down. But if you zoom out and look at, let's move that chart out to 2015, I was happy to make $45,000 each on those in 2015. So we're still at almost double what we were doing way back then. So yes, we've gone down some in the past few years, but overall, we're still way up.
That's good advice for just all real estate investing and all business, right? It's zoom out. Like it's easy on a graph and for statisticians, is that how you call them? Statisticians, whatever.
Statistics.
Statistics people. And mainly the main culprit here, I'm going to throw under the bus, is journalists. Because they got it right. They're like, oh, if you look at this graph, and they start it and end it at the exact point they want to make a point. Look at the collapse of the market. And then you just zoom out, you're like, oh, that was a 1% blip on it. It's like, you have to be very careful. Anytime you get, like even interest rates right now, oh my gosh, they're at 6.5%, 7%. What are we going to do? It's like, well, that's the average actually for the last 40 years in America. So we're right where we should be. This is what the new reality is.
Well, even like long-term rentals. Like I've seen so much clickbait about how terrible it is for long-term rentals, and it is hard to get them cash flow. Completely agree with that. But I think 2024, we're still on average, like nationally, we're going to appreciate at 3%, which isn't what it's been the last 5 years, but it's still appreciating at 3%. And I think there's been like 7 years in the last 70 years where we have actually depreciated. Is that a word? Yeah. It's depreciated over time. So,
Yeah. All right. I want to ask you about like, what does it take to actually be one of the top of the heap secrets of success? Like, what is that in vacation rentals? But before we get there,
Okay.
I want to bring in this week's show sponsor. So one thing we do on the show is we send all the profits from the podcast go directly towards charities of the guests' choosing. So where are we sending the money from today's episode?
So Susan G. Komen, breast cancer research. My mother is an 8-year breast cancer survivor.
Oh, wow.
So very near and dear to my heart.
Yeah.
All right.
Love that.
All right. Yeah, we will send the money there. And appreciate you. With that said. All right, so picture this. I just signed a lease with a tenant. They seemed great on paper. Then a few months in, everything kind of started going sideways. Suddenly, they're missing rent deadlines. There's a broken window. The neighbors are complaining about them. I realized I'd put someone in my rental property without properly screening them. And now I was living a landlord's nightmare. But lucky for you, you don't have to make the same mistakes as I made early on because you have the luxury of using TurboTenant. So if you're managing any rental properties right now, and you're still trying to vet tenants and collect rent and keep track of work orders and market all your vacancies, look, TurboTenant is going to be your best friend. It's an app that allows you to do all of that and so much more, all in the same platform. Plus, it's like stupid cheap, like seriously less than your Netflix subscription. I don't even know why it's so cheap. And if you want it even cheaper, I got a discount for you. Just go to turbotenant.com/betterlife and use code Brandon10 for 10% off. Or go to my Instagram and DM me the word toolbox, and I'll send you a link to a bunch of cool free tools that they have, like the rent estimator, financial freedom calculator, and more. Hey, so many of you have heard me tell that story about how I bought my daughter Rosie a fourplex, like a rental property, the week she was born, and how we put it on an 18-year, mortgage payoff plan so it'll be paid off when she graduates from high school. So essentially, my tenants are paying for Rosie's entire college. Now that's pretty awesome, right? Not to mention, it's also making almost like $1,000 a month in cash flow. That's double awesome. But I don't think I've ever shared really exactly how I found that deal. So here goes. I found it through direct mail marketing. And here's how. I simply built a high quality lead list of a lot of names and addresses of potential sellers, and I sent out a whole bunch of mail to every person on that list. And then I talked on the phone to a ton of people, and then I finally got one person that was interested enough to sell me the property, and I got a deal at a great price. So building that giant lead engine like that, I mean, it works, but it takes a ton of time, knowledge, and effort, which can really slow down an investor's growth, which is why I reached out to my friend Ryan with Ballpoint Marketing. I asked him to sponsor this show because they're the best at doing everything that I just talked about. Like, they're literally going to help you build your entire lead engine. You're going to get a one-on-one call where they're going to help you figure out what you want and then build your lead list for you. Their robots are going to handwrite the postcards with a real pen, which is super cool. They're going to send them out, and they'll even answer the phone calls for you. Plus, they'll help you track it all inside of a CRM that they create for you. I know, it's crazy, crazy awesome. And it's going to help you land way more deals consistently. And because you're awesome and because you listen to this show, you're going to get a discount when you tell them that I sent you, or just use code Brandon when checking out with them. I love Ballpoint Marketing and officially recommend them to all my friends and masterminds. So if you're ready to kick your deal flow up a notch, getting more quality leads without pulling your hair out, just go to ballpointmarketing.com/betterlife. Or just shoot me a DM on Instagram with the word ballpoint, like one word, ballpoint, and I'll hook you up with them directly. All right, now to the secrets of success. What does it take to be on the top of the heap, the best of the best in the short-term rental space?
Okay, so nobody talks about this one. Everybody wants to look at lists and be told, you tell me where the best place to invest is. You find me a deal. You tell me this. The biggest piece of the puzzle in terms of being successful is taking the time to understand the market that you're buying in, the demographic that goes there, where they want to be in that market, and why. So a really good example of that is there's a little town about 30 minutes away from us called Navarre Beach, Florida. Mm-hmm. And it's been on all kinds of lists in terms of best places to invest in short-term rentals. And it's a little kind of peninsula. And there's the Bayside. And Navarre proper is above the bay, so north of the bay, but Navarre Beach is where all the tourists go, and that's on the Gulf side with the beautiful, like, crystal clear water. And so many people that had never been there before would buy there, come to me well after and say, hey, why am I not making money? And I'd have to say, well, you bought on the bay. You bought in Navarre proper. And they said, well, I mean, it's water. People come on vacation to the water, and it was cheaper on the north side. And so I figured that people wouldn't mind crossing that bridge and driving 20 minutes to the beach to pay a cheaper price. So the problem with that is people don't go to the bay side. The bay water is black.
Yeah.
They want to go to the Gulf. They want the crystal clear water, the white sand, and they don't want to drive. If you would take the time to come to Navarre during the high season, it doesn't take 20 minutes to cross the bridge in high season. It takes 3 hours to get across the bridge. So B, they're not going to do that. And C, there's crappy condos they can rent for the same price as whatever you're renting your nice house that costs you less. So I think that when people don't take the time to understand, just like the developers in the Smokies who have gone too crazy with the luxury, take the time to understand your market and who you're renting to before anything else.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of investors too now are like, well, where can I buy that nobody else is talking about? I got to go where there's nobody else. So if you're going to do that, that's fine. But make sure it's a place that you know that you're familiar with. So like Starkville, Mississippi, where I grew up in Northeast Mississippi, has been on a few lists of best places to invest in short-term rental. Why? I have no idea. I could be successful there because I grew up there. Mississippi State University is there. I know exactly who comes there, when, and why. What sports are good at Mississippi State, which is one, baseball, and who comes there and when and why. I could be successful there. I know tons of people who I could teach to clean a short-term rental, but somebody from Oregon reading that on a list doesn't know all those things.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do kind of a trailblazer market, as I like to call it, if you're trying to be like the first one to the space, make sure it's something that you're really, really familiar with, and you didn't just pick a property because the cash flow looks good.
Right.
I've made my own mistakes doing that we can talk about, but just make sure you really, really understand the market that you're buying in and who goes there and why.
It's really good.
Yeah, I think location to me is the most important part. Like like you just said, I would rather stay in a crappy condo or crappy house to be in a great location than 10 miles out and have to drive in a great house. So
what do you think about Airbnb arbitrage? Or people call it Airbnb arbitrage or short-term rental arbitrage, where you're renting a property from somebody and then you're subletting it on Airbnb. Is that still a viable strategy today? Do you recommend it? Do you talk your clients into it or out of it?
So I don't think it's a bad strategy. It does not work in the markets that we're in because a lot of times, they're $1 million beach house and and especially in a big vacation market, if a landlord wants to rent it to you long term, they could just as easily put it with one of the big vacation rental managers and make more. But I don't think it's a bad strategy. I think that it's a great way to get your feet wet. Maybe if you don't have the capital to put down on buying one, you can learn the business with relatively little. I mean, it's a lot of risk or it's a little risk depending on how you look at it. Like there's a lot of risk because if the landlord decides to sell it or doesn't want you to do it anymore, then you lose your entire asset. But it's a little risk in terms of you're not actually buying a house. So I think it's a great way to generate some cash flow that you might need to get started, as well as get some experience. But I think it should just be a means to an end. You should not just build your whole business on having 300 arbitrage units.
Which some people have.
They do.
There is value. We talked about this earlier. There is the main money that you make in Airbnb or in short-term rentals is in the management. And so for easy math, let's just say a house in a vacation area rented for $100,000 a year, right? And that local property managers were managing it at 20%. So that means the manager's getting 20 grand a year for managing that. So if you went to that landlord and were like, hey, I'll just pay you $80,000 a year to run this Airbnb, and then you go rent it out for 100 grand, you still make the 20,000. Like you're basically just getting around the rules around property management. You're just a property manager.
Yeah.
You don't own the asset. I don't know if that's legal or not. Check with your lawyer and all that stuff. But you're basically just skirting the management, and that's where you're making your money.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, if you can do that, like that, if you make 20,000 a year off one of them, let's just say, and you own 10 of them, it's like, oh, you're financially free with an asset you don't own. So again, it's volatile. It's more of a business at that point.
Yeah, and probably working a ton.
And you're probably working a ton. Now, could you get enough of them? You could hire a bunch of VAs and you could, have them run it. Yeah, there's great opportunities in business. Yeah. Which is actually where I wanted to shift the conversation a little bit, maybe away from vacation rentals. Because, not everyone listening to this wants to know just about vacation rentals. I want to know a little bit about the business of the short-term shop, right? The short-term shop?
The short-term shop, yes.
So, you've done $3.5 billion in transactions there. We'll start with this. Do you recommend people look more into the business side in this market of starting a business of whatever it is, Cody Sanchez style, right? Of like small buy boring businesses, or do you still recommend real estate investing as an avenue for financial freedom?
So I think short-term rentals are a great gateway drug into either direction.
Yeah, you're right.
So it's a really easy way to buy a piece of real estate. You're getting into real estate investing, generating as much cash flow as, like a small multifamily would. But also you're running a hospitality business. So, and a lot of the principles that you use and learn from managing a short-term rental can be applied to other types of businesses. So I think by managing a couple short-term rentals for a few years, you're in a good position to know how to do either one.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. So, I mean, you could go either way with that. I mean, we've got our investment portfolio, but then we've got other real estate related businesses like the short-term shop. We have the mortgage shop also. Luke's got short-term shop plus, which is our education piece. So we definitely have different businesses around our real estate investing portfolio. So I think it's good to have multiple streams of income for sure.
Yeah, I like the idea of owning like a small business like that in the same niche. So whether it's if I was going to start one today, I'd probably start like a roofing company. So I'm like, well, I have a lot of properties all over, especially mobile home, I have whatever, 7,000 mobile homes. So it's like, if I did like a mobile home repair company, like that makes sense because I can hire my own people. I already understand the industry. I understand the clientele and the owners. I understand all of it. So that makes sense to me. I could start, and I don't need another business. But if I like that idea. So it sounds like you've taken the same approach.
Yeah.
What has been the key, piece of wisdom you have in terms of what it took to grow a business to that size? I mean, you have a lot of agents. How many did you say?
About 50.
Yeah. So how did you get there? I know it's a broad question, but
such a broad question. Systems and processes, I think, and you can't implement a system until you go through a process a few times and it doesn't work several times in a row. And then, okay, this is something I'm going to keep having to deal with. I have to figure out how to get upstream of this and fix it and make it a process. Dealing with people is always difficult. So learning how to, and I definitely attribute the years of bartending that I did in between undergrad and grad school to, learning how to deal with different types of people. You deal with all different types of personalities. You've got grumpy patrons, you've got sweet ones, you've got people who want to talk to you, people who don't, and just it really teaches you how to read people and how to communicate with different types of people. So I think, especially with maybe people who are listening who are like, I don't have a big engineering job, I can't get into this. Like, you're actually better off coming in from the service industry. You will be better at running short-term rentals than somebody who is coming in from a big engineering job.
Yeah. And your brokerage, you only sell vacation rentals, right?
Only sell vacation rentals.
So does that mean your agents can only sell vacation rentals, or?
Yeah, we only sell, if they've got a brother or something who wants them to list their house, of course, but we don't take other types of clients, only vacation rental buyers and sellers.
Got you. And what's the best market for you to sell in?
So we do the most volume in the Smoky Mountains, and that is probably because that's the market we've been in the longest. Emerald Coast is number 2. And it just, but Branson and Myrtle Beach are creeping up because right now, interest rates are really high, and those are our 2 cheapest markets. So, 6% interest rate on a $250,000 condo is less dollars than on a $2 million beach house.
Yeah.
by the way, this might be a dated statement when this episode comes out, but a friend told me today he just got approved for a 4.99 mortgage. 4.99. Yeah,
Did he buy down?
Through a Fannie. I don't know, but Fannie is a Fannie Mae thing. 4.99, which that's a whole point lower than the. I heard a 6 recently, but 4.9, basically 5.
Wow.
So we might be getting there. Like it's moving in that direction. So
That's insane.
I want to go back to the business thing. I have kind of a weird question for you.
Okay.
That you won't even be able to fully answer this one.
Lovely.
But I'm just curious because you've done it better than almost anybody else I know. The bigger pockets effect. And what I mean by that is how much of your growth of your business were because of the effort you put into the community around Bigger Pockets, writing the book, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Was that like, oh yeah, it's helped us a little bit? Or was that like, oh, because of this is how we grew and I wouldn't have been able to do it without it? I'm wondering how you view the relationship you've had with Bigger Pockets over the years. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think it's a little bit of both. We've definitely worked our asses off, but could not have done it without Bigger Pockets by any means.
I just think it's such a value. Like I said, you've done it better than almost anybody, maybe better than anybody I know.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's like you get involved, and whether it's Bigger Pockets, it could be any community out there, but you get involved in a community and then you just give and you provide value. And then, people then show up. Like you write articles and you engage in the forums and you eventually write a book because you get chosen to write a book because you're engaging on the community, right? Like none of that happened by accident. Like you were deliberate about being part of a community. And yeah, we saw your business grow quite a bit. So anyway, it's just cool to hear that. Like,
Thank you.
it's fun to see that work, and people wonder, like, oh, like they look at that and like, oh, lucky, like lucky, you get $3.5 billion of transactions. You're like, lucky. It's like, well, you put in a lot of work, but you harness another platform. I guess you found out where are my customers at. I'm going to go be there, and and I think it's smart.
Oh, well, thank
Yeah,
you
good job.
very much. That book, The Go-Giver, I did read
Yeah.
early on.
Yeah.
And it has worked. Like the more we help people, even if it is inconvenient for us at that specific time, the more it has come back, tenfold. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to be helpful.
Yeah. That's very cool. All right. You have another one? I have another one if you want to.
Go for it.
I'm just firing them. I got a lot of them.
Okay.
I want to move back toward short-term rentals for a moment before we shift onto something else
Okay.
long term, because I don't want to forget this section. This is called the how-to section of the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know you prepared, my team had you prepare a how-to segment here. So what are you going to be teaching us today how to do?
How to successfully invest in short-term rentals. So we'll
Okay.
break it down into a little bit better.
Please.
So number one is start with a market that you know.
Okay.
We talked about that already. Start with something that you know and you understand. If you just read online that, oh, the 10 short-term rentals in Kokomo, Indiana are doing really well, I'm going to go buy there. Like, you're going to fail.
Is that a place?
I guess so. I think it is. I think it is. I think it's real. Number two, then you want to start looking at the properties that you can afford. So, like, would I like to buy something in Jackson Hole, Wyoming? Yes. Is it $2 million for a 1-bedroom there? Okay. That cuts the legs out from under it pretty quickly. And you want to get pre-approved in there somewhere to figure out what you can actually afford. So, start with a market that you know and figure out, what the pricing there is. If that doesn't work, choose a similar market. So like Starkville, Mississippi, for example, Mississippi State University is there. I know it perfectly. We talked about that already. But if I get in there and the numbers don't work, or maybe the regulations are not favorable, well, where's somewhere similar? Well, Tuscaloosa, where University of Alabama is, 90 miles down the road, exact same clientele, like the exact same demographic of people go there, just a different university. So let's try that. So, or, if that doesn't work, then you've got, X amount of other SEC schools where you could implement the exact same formula. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a vacation market. Obviously, you want to check regulations. That should be really 1A. And then you want to start looking at the different sizes of properties of what makes sense. Like, well, are 99% of the market 4 bedrooms? Maybe let's not buy a 4-bedroom. And you want to look at the data. So there's tons of places you can get data nowadays. They didn't have any when I started. Uphill in the snow both ways and all that. But, there's AirDNA, there's Revity, I like Price Labs data. So Price Labs is actually a pricing tool once you already own your property that prices out your calendars for you, but they have a very cool data section. So get as much data as you can. Don't focus on any one. And then, engage with an agent in that market who knows short-term rentals. So anytime you can go to any agent in America that has not sold a house in 10 years and say, oh, I'm looking for an agent. Do you do short-term rentals? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can do short-term rentals. So you want to ask them some questions, make sure that they fully understand. I mean, I was trying to buy a house in Taos, New Mexico last year, and the agent, he came from a recommendation from a client of mine. So I was like, oh, well, if you can deal with them, like they were successful, I need the same type of agent. And we were under contract on a $1 million house, and come to find out after doing some more research, like it was the best neighborhood to live in, but not the best neighborhood in terms of where people want to rent on vacation. So you need to definitely have one that does a lot of short-term rental specific so that they understand, where you need to be. And then, I mean, that's how to acquire one. Then you're off to the races.
So I have a question about something you said where it's like, hey, if there's a bunch of 4 bedrooms, then maybe don't look at a 4-bedroom. Where's the line between kind of being a trailblazer, but then also doing what people are doing because it works? Does that make sense at all?
That's a really good question. And for me, like, there are tons of data analyst guys out there that will say X, Y, and Z markets are saturated that I'm still buying in because I know they work. And it's really only like, I don't know, the bottom 50% that really get affected by that saturation, and the people who maybe bought wrong, or people who just don't care And so you're really not ever competing with the entire market. You're only competing with your bedroom count and then making sure that you have maybe some amenities that other properties don't have, or at least making sure you have what they have.
Yeah.
We use at the short-term shop something we call the enemy method, where it's kind of like a competitor analysis. So if you want to buy 4 bedrooms, like you want to buy a 4-bedroom house for your family, but there's a lot of 4 bedrooms in that market, look at the other 4 bedrooms and see. This is the easiest way to put it. Look at all of your competition and look at what your property has to offer and what you can do to that to make people pick you instead of them. It's really like just that simple.
Do you have any tricks for that? Like, what would be the number one if somebody's going to the Smoky Mountains? What is the number one thing they're looking for? A pool, a hot tub, a theater room?
Views.
Views. That's the number one thing.
Yes, and there are going to be some times where you're either going to have a property or your competitor has something about their property that you can't compete with. So, those amazing views or, being beachfront in a beach market, hopefully the purchase price difference will be such that it makes sense to do anyway and just amenitize it properly past that. But typically people want to be where the view is, whether it's a view of the ocean or a view of the mountains, and then, the rest of those amenities from there. So indoor pools are a big one in the Smokies right now. Also, every single property has a hot tub. You can't not have a hot tub. People are putting pickleball courts, things like that. That's not common. I think there's maybe 2 right now that have pickleball courts. Game rooms, got to have game rooms, movie theaters, all that stuff.
So like just thinking of Destin, because I've been there multiple times, where it's just a row of the same exact houses, one after the other after the other. And if one of your clients is looking at one of those, what would you tell them? Like, you have to do this in this house to be able to set yourself apart from everybody else. Is it the game room, or is it that?
If you want to set yourself apart from everybody else, you need a pool. And you can get away with not having deeded beach access, but deeded beach access is really starting to be necessary. And that doesn't mean you're beachfront. It just means that the neighborhood or condo building that you're in has its own private beach.
Oh, they do private beaches in Destin. Oh.
Yes, they do private beaches. So, and you can like walk through them. But Walton County, which is right next door to Destin, where I live in 30A, has like a big thing right now because a bunch of really wealthy politicians like Mike Huckabee started building beachfront properties, noticed on the deeds that are like ancient at this point that the property lines go all the way down to the water, which was not intentional. It wasn't supposed to mean that these private owners own all the way to the water, but you get a bunch of politicians in there that now their $4 million beach house that they can start lawsuits and things over, which they have, and prove that the line says we own all the way to the water, and that passed. So now it's a $25 million beach house. And I don't think that, and now I'm way off topic, but
let's get into this. This is interesting.
Yeah, I don't think that that's going to uphold for, it's in all kinds of appeals and stuff, but it's really something to pay attention to in that market with your guests, because the public beach accesses, especially on the east end of town, are very small. They're very narrow because when they were built, the whole beach was technically public. And so now they're like as wide as you two, and they will tell you to get off of their property if you put your chair down. So you want to make sure that if you've got a neighborhood with deeded beach access, you don't have to worry about that.
For all the things Hawaii is messed up about, Hawaii did that right. Is all beaches are public in Hawaii and nobody owns the beach. And so like, and
there's only one private beach.
Yeah, you're right. It's Bezos.
Bezos.
Yeah. Do you know that story? Jeff Bezos. So
no, I don't.
Jeff Bezos comes in. I'm gonna probably butcher this a little bit with the numbers maybe, but he comes in and he buys this house down the farthest south McKenna house you can buy. Beautiful location. And there's like a nature, like, or a lava field in the area anyway, but no beaches are private anywhere except for Jeff Bezos' house. It's weird. I don't know how it happened.
So I do.
Do you?
Yeah. And it's the same political. So some senator bought that house back in the 60s or 70s or something like that.
Drew the lines and made that the private beach. Wow. And it's just stayed with that house. And so, because if you like every other beach you can go to, you can take a boat to, in this one you can't. If you go into the little like inlet, they will he's got security will come out and stop you. I've never tried. Yeah, I know.
I have walked down and like looked at it before. But he came out and stayed for a weekend. This is the story that everybody says. He stayed for a week and he wanted to stay for like another month, and the owner told him no, that he couldn't. So he just said, how much do you want for it? And, and apparently it was like $75 million or $80 million, and he just bought it. Which when you're worth $100 billion, it's like whatever. 85 million is like whatever. That's why.
Another interesting thing Hawaii did is anytime they put a development in, like when they put the Wailea development in or the Kaanapali one, is they require public beach parking as well. So there's a
Oh.
ton of parking here for all the beaches because
That's
all the
awesome.
hotels had to put it on their property. So you go park right in between the Four Seasons and Grand Wailea, and there's like a 200 car parking lot.
You can walk
That's
into
that.
Walk down to the beach.
most
and-
beautiful, most beautiful beaches in the world for
Yeah, and there's the Four Seasons and the Grand Wailea, two of the most beautiful, hotels here, and all their beach chairs laid out there, and you can sit right in between them, and they can't do anything about it.
I stayed at the Four Seasons.
Did you?
It's,
Yeah.
I saw
Yeah.
that yesterday.
Yeah, you can sit right. So I love to go down there, and that's the beach we go to, the Four Seasons. I just like hanging out with the Four Seasons people.
Yeah.
And you can't stop you. It's
You're a
great.
Four Seasons person.
I am a Four Seasons person. Man, if I could only stay at Four Seasons, like I would. I just went to the
So
Orlando.
nice.
We just spent a week at the Orlando Four Seasons. You ever been to the Orlando one?
I have actually.
It is the greatest hotel, in my opinion, the greatest hotel I've ever been to with kids. If you have kids, because their kid like kids club, it's included in the price. You don't pay extra for it. Is the most magical thing. 9 to 5, they watch your kids. They take them out on the water slides and rock climbing and like play games with them all day long. And you just get to go sit by the pool, the adult pool, and chill.
Oh,
and
wow.
eat. It's
I need to
besides being the most beautiful property in the world. I
Yeah.
love it. But the kids club makes
how
it
much
just
is it
next
a night?
level.
there? 1,500.
No, it was cheaper than Hawaii. It was a 900,000.
That's
Yeah, it was like $1,000 a night. Not bad for a Four Seasons.
yeah.
I
It's,
suppose.
not, it's a lot, but not for a Four Seasons.
Yeah.
Here you're pushing
Yeah,
1,500.
yeah, I think it's more. Yeah, it's almost 2,000. Do you know what it is right now for you?
I think it was something like that.
Yeah, it's crazy here, but
Yeah.
it's
It was
wild.
worth it.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right. I want to talk a little bit about your
Okay.
long-term rentals.
All right, let's talk
Because
about
we're talking about 8. We spent a lot of time talking about 8 short-term rentals that you got, but you got 250 units. What is that made up of? Houses, single-family, duplexes, multi?
a little bit
all
of everything.
Okay.
A little bit of everything. 8 short terms. I think we've got maybe like 100 doors worth of multifamily, and then
Okay.
everything else is single family and duplex.
Wow.
That's awesome.
And
How-
what? Yeah, go ahead.
No, just how did you build that over time? Was that through the Burr method? Was that through saving up money, putting 20% down? How did you
Little bit
build
of
that stuff? All of
A
it?
little bit of all of it. So the reason, remember, that we started buying short terms was so that we could buy more long terms.
Yeah,
Love
yeah.
that. Yeah.
And so that's what we did. So we got up to 5 short terms, and then we had enough cash flow coming in. This was back before COVID. So these numbers are going to sound a little crazy to some people, but where a $20,000 down payment on a long term was a lot easier to get. Like you started not noticing that coming out of the bank. And so I think we got up to like 40 in Chattanooga.
Wow.
And then Chattanooga kind of quit making sense. So we started buying in Birmingham, which I'm pretty familiar with. I only grew up about 2 hours from there. And one time deals just kept working, and we had like 9 closings in one day. And so we looked at each other, and we had a notary. We have a notary that comes to our house every time. Same guy.
By the way, that's a tip that nobody ever talks about is notaries will come to your house. You don't have to go to a title company to sign every time. It might cost you a little bit more, but you'll never notice
Yeah,
it.
it's really not. Like
huge
he
tip.
would come to our house like all the time.
Yeah.
And so we had 9 closings in a day. And we looked at each other and we were like, that was really, I'm going to sound like a jerk right now. That was really stressful to have a notary here and sign on 9 closings while we're trying to watch the kids and they're screaming, and like it was just a mess. And so we were like, well, maybe we should just buy apartment buildings so we have 1 closing for 9 doors. And so then we started buying apartment buildings in the Midwest and have just kind of continued. Obviously, it's been slower this year just because there's not as many good deals coming on. I kind of call it the great stalemate of real estate.
yeah.
That fewer homes were sold in 23 and 24 than the entire Great Recession.
That's
So
so crazy to me.
I've been calling this, I want this to catch on. So we're trying to redefine a term. I've been calling it the silent recession. There was like the Great Recession. This is like the silent recession.
is.
They don't want to admit that it's a recession.
I don't know why.
I don't know. It's politically not a good thing. We don't talk about recessions, but everybody is struggling and everything's hard and everything's difficult more than it was at any time I could remember. I mean, 2008 was hard. People lost a lot, but it's been a rough couple years.
Yeah, it has.
There's
It's been tough.
nobody in real estate that I know right
That's
now
just
that's
crushing
like,
it.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
We
I
were
love
talking
it.
about it yesterday, your house. Like we're working twice as hard right now to make half as much money.
Yes. Yeah.
Which sucks.
But I wonder, yeah, it's hard in everybody. So
I mean, for us, I had a good conversation with a friend today where it's like, if you would have taken out the 3 years that we just did amazing, and you would have told me 4 years ago, hey, this is where you're going to be in 4 years, I'd still be super pumped.
Yeah.
Like I'd still be ecstatic about that. But because of the last 3 years, this year sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But
zoom out, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know. Mistakes. What mistakes have you made in your building of your portfolio, your long-term one?
So, paying attention only to cash flow and not other things. So when I started, and I think a lot of people when they start, they're like, oh, cash flow is how you quit your job. Only invest for cash flow. Like I would get in fights with people on the Bigger Pockets forums about cash flow. And it was my own naivete. So, started buying multifamily in the Midwest. Midwest does not appreciate. We know this. And the reason I think that a lot of markets look really good on paper is because the real estate is not desirable. I don't mean like it's a bad area, but I mean like, there's not a lot of people moving to the Midwest, like San Diego, Austin, desirable real estate. A lot of people moving there, a lot of growth. Beach markets, desirable. So we bought only for cash flow. And we've got this building that we've had for about 3.5, 4 years. And it's all right. C-class, we've got, we've been slowly rehabbing one unit at a time, knowing it's not ever going to appreciate. We plan to keep everything forever. Like we've only sold 1 or 2 properties ever. We are buy and hold investors. And so we said, well, we're worried about cash flow. Let's only buy where it cash flows. And so we did this. And through no fault of our own, I think that other people might benefit from hearing this. Like sometimes things can go wrong that are completely outside your control.
Yeah.
And that's why you can't only look at cash flow. So there's a big apartment building across the road. And that guy has let it completely fall apart. We've got drug dealers, crime. It's now condemned by the city.
Oh, no.
And so it's just full of squatters. I don't know why he doesn't care.
Yeah.
He does not care. The police don't care. Like we call every time we have a problem and they
What
just
city
don't.
is it in?
It is in a little city in Nebraska.
Okay.
And they just don't care.
Yeah.
So we're like, all right, we've now had to rehab some of these units twice. And like we just rehabbed because somebody moved out and then homeless people break in and tear it up. And so we're finally like, all right, let's sell this thing. And so now we're selling it in the worst market in the last ever. And what's happening is we can't sell it for really anything. I mean, we're listed, I think, $100,000 less than we paid because we knew we looked only at cash flow. There's no growth in this market. There's no job growth. There's no population growth. There's nothing. There's really nothing in this market at all. But it looked great on paper, cash flow wise. And there's a reason for that.
Such a common tale.
Yeah.
I've done it.
Yeah, there's a reason for that. So, if we bought in a market that had any appreciation whatsoever, we wouldn't be eating probably $250,000 right now.
That reminds me of David Green has a quote that says, cash flow allows you to hang on and wait for appreciation to make you rich. And I like that idea a lot of like cash flow isn't designed to make you rich necessarily. I mean, maybe some of us have hacked our way into getting a lot of cash flow on random deals here and there. And, Airbnb is a good way to do that or short-term rentals maybe. But cash flow lets you just hang on. Like you're going to have ups and downs years. You're going to have rough times, good times. If you can just hang on though and wait 20 years, 10 years, whatever, like I think I heard there's never been a period in the last 100 or 200 years where a 10-year period didn't have a net gain on property values. It's always over 10 years. It's always been better. Even like the Great Recession and then 10 years later, it's always been better 10 years later. And so, cash flow allows you, cash flow is great if you can get it. But if you have cash flow with no appreciation,
that sucks.
That sucks.
Yeah, it sucks. And
And
so,
the Midwest is,
As we know, cash flow just gets eaten up anyway by CapEx usually and vacancy and remodeling units.
yeah. So, my strategy from now on is to continue with, buying properties that need rehab in the best locations that are desirable.
Yeah.
So that even if something like that happens outside of your control, you've still added all this value to the property and you've got a little something, if something crazy, it's unlikely that something crazy outside your control is going to happen to make you have to sell a property, but it's nice to have, so there's other things besides cash flow that are important when it comes to real estate investing. And, that's a mistake that I had to make and learn.
Yeah. I love, for us, Class A and B plus properties in the Midwest, because you still can get those to cash flow, because a Class A property in San Diego is just not going to cash flow.
Right.
Unless you're doing something creative on it. But A and B plus, and they still appreciate a little bit, not anywhere near what California market will or Florida market will, but they still appreciate. But you can get cash flow. So you can get cash flow, let those appreciate over time. That's the hope, at least.
Yeah.
I like it. All right. I want to ask a question that people ask me all the time. And I generally don't like the question. I don't like the question when they ask me it because they ask it in like a judgmental way. I'm going to ask you in a non-judgmental way.
I like the way this starts.
Yeah.
It's just like my mom.
Very interesting. I want to ask this. Like, when's enough? Like the question, why you got into real estate at some point because you wanted to pay your bills. Yeah, you pay your bills. Why do you keep going? And again, I have no because I'm doing the same thing. Like, I still grow. Why do you keep pushing and building and growing when you probably don't have to?
I enjoy the working and the building part more than I'm one of those weird people that likes hard work and I like going to school. Like at some point when my kids are grown, I'll probably get a PhD for fun.
Yeah.
Like I enjoy that part more so than anything else.
Mhm.
And, I'm 36. I can't just sit around and deteriorate. So might as well keep growing. That's really the only answer that I have. Like, I don't know. And I have been asked that question in a judgmental way. Like, when's enough enough? Well, it probably never is the answer.
I tell them until I can buy a yacht,
Yeah.
a super yacht.
Yeah. Until I have a personal butler that walks with me everywhere I go and he has to have a monocle, it's not enough. And then they just get really mad at you. But the question actually, when people ask that question, right, they don't even care about you. They're feeling bad about themselves on why they haven't achieved whatever it is you have. So they're like, clearly there's something wrong with this person. I need to find out what that thing is. I need to know they're an egomaniac or they're a narcissist or something. So now I don't feel bad about myself.
Right.
It's a really great point about that question.
Yeah, they just feel bad about themselves. Nobody wants to be the villain.
Yeah.
And so they have to make you the villain in some way. And so it's always a little judgmental. Like, yeah, when's enough? Yeah. So what is your why today? Why did you get into real estate? Why do you continue to do real estate? Besides just you can do other things. There's a lot of businesses up there. Why real estate?
Yeah, well, my kids for sure. And, I started kind of around the same time I was having these conversations with the Edward Jones lady. Yeah. And I was, we just got married. Kids are the next thing you start talking about. We always wanted to have kids. And so me working, we're like, okay, well, what can I do to make this work? Because I don't want to have to put my kids in daycare. I don't want to do all these things. And I thought finding a work from home job was the answer to that. But I remember I was walking around Centennial Park on a walk with my friend Linda, who's kind of like my mom mentor. Her oldest actually just went to college this year. And she's a stay-at-home mom. Her husband was in Alice Cooper, and now he's in Leonard Skinner right now.
Oh.
But she's like a great mom. And I was walking around with her like, how do I figure this out? Like, how do I still have a career or still be contributing and without sacrificing my future kids for that? We didn't have kids yet. We were already just thinking about it. And so I was trying to figure out what work from home job. And then all this kind of fell into place at the same time as the first real estate deal. And so it just kind of became that real estate was the thing. But, everything is 100% for the kids. We're able to, through being entrepreneurs and not having to, quote, work for the man. Yes, it is 1,000 times harder and much more work than working for the man, but we are able to give the kids a 2-parent stay-at-home experience because of the real estate and because of the businesses that we've built through the real estate. So for me, it's just being able to have the freedom of time to hang out with our kids. And, if we want to go to a movie at noon after we go to a dentist appointment and not go back to school, we can do that. I don't have to ask anybody, and we can do those cool things. So it's really more about that and being able to give them the best experiences and 2 parents. Maybe it annoys them, maybe it will at some point, but they're gonna have it.
Yeah. How old are your kids?
One just turned 6 and one is 3, turning 4 in a couple of weeks.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Those are fun ages.
Yes.
What advice do you have for people who are going to have kids soon? And they're entrepreneurs, they're real estate investors, listen to the show, and they want to have kids. What should they do to prepare for that?
Just let it rip. I mean, you're never going to wake up one day and say, okay, everything's ready.
Yeah.
We're prepared. So just let it rip.
What's funny about that? I don't know if I mentioned this before, but my wife, I have mentioned this. My wife's pregnant, right? We're having a 3rd kid, and we did in vitro. That's what I don't know if I mentioned. We did in vitro, which is a really weird thing in that you get to choose when you have a child. And it's such a weird, because there's never a good time. The reason Wilder is now 5 years old, just about, he'll be 5 when we have the next kid. The reason there's a 5-year gap there is because for 5 years in a row, there was never a good time to have another kid. So we had the embryo sitting there, and it was like, well, we could put it in now, but we had that concert coming up in 7 months. I really want to go to that when we were young, and it was like, oh, what about that's Christmas? We were going to travel here. There's never a good time to have a kid. That's what I was finally, we're just like, just rip it. We're just going to go. So that's why we're going to have a baby now. But there's never a great time, but it's never a bad time. I feel like it's like, it's always like, this is perfect. It worked out. So very cool. All right. Your husband, tell us about him.
All right. My husband, Luke, he's 6'4". He's very handsome.
Short guy.
Yeah. So I feel like you're probably asking for some kind of, how do you work with your,
I want to know what you love about your husband.
What I love about my
Let's go there first.
Okay,
and then we'll go into the work stuff.
Okay. I love a lot of things about my husband, but as it relates to real estate, and just life in general. So he's very much kind of, I guess I'd call him my trigger man in the business. So I have a lot of great ideas, but he's the one that gives you that nudge off the diving board that sometimes I don't want, but need, whether it's just me personally or the business. So I've had a lot of good ideas in terms of what to invest in, but none of that would have ever actually happened without him saying, like, pushing us off the diving board. I met him in New York City at the sleaziest punk rock bar in Brooklyn. Seeing the sleaziest band ever, was certainly not planning to meet my husband that night. And he owned a successful bar in New York City in the Lower East Side. And so what he really brings to the business is, I'm very Southern about things and like not want to hurt anybody's feelings. We're always going to be super polite. But he makes things happen. Like if there's a problem and I'm going to like ask it what it needs and what can I do to help you to get for you problem to disappear, and he's just going to break its knees and then it's done. Yeah. So it's a really nice compliment to our two different personalities. That me being on the front end of like sales and marketing and dealing with people, and him operations and making things work, has been a really, really great partnership. He's the best dad in the entire world. And I love everything about him. Well, not everything.
Let me dig in there a little bit. Yeah. What makes him the best dad? What's he do that makes you admire his parenting?
Okay, that's a really good question. I feel like I hear a lot of other women say things like, oh, I have to tell him to do this or I have to tell him to do that with the kids. I don't have to do that. Like, he volunteers to be the kid's chaperone on their field trips. I couldn't think of the word field trip for some reason. And he will be the only dad there, and he will get weird looks from the moms like, you don't work? Or Luke will be like, oh, how's so-and-so? How's your husband? Well, he's at work. And they say it kind of like judgmentally.
Yeah, I've got that too.
Yeah. So, he just really is like a proactive, very there for the kids. Like, I'm trying to, I don't guess I can put it into words, but he just is,
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, we are going to shift segments here and get into the next part of the show called 3, 2, 1 pivot.
Oh, goodness.
This is the part of the show where you talk about pivoting, meaning your life was going one direction. Something changed and it started going a different direction. So 3 books that have changed the direction of your life, 2 people, and 1 quote. We'll start with books though, so you don't have to memorize that.
Okay. Books.
3 books change the direction of your life.
Okay. Cash Flow Quadrant, Robert Kiyosaki.
Yep.
And let's say I'm gonna go with the Mike Michalowicz.
Profit First.
Maybe Profit First, but I think I'm gonna go Clockwork.
Clockwork. Awesome. I love that one too.
Yeah, it's a good one. And actually one that I've read recently called Unreasonable Hospitality.
Everybody keeps talking about that book. I've not read it.
Great one.
You've read a book?
Oh, I've read 1 or 2. One or two.
Yeah, I mean, it's just about the difference between service and hospitality. Service is what's expected of you. Hospitality is above and beyond, and it's really applicable to any business, not just in short-term rental investing, although it's very applicable to that.
Yeah.
Because he was the owner of the #1 restaurant in the world, right?
Yeah,
right.
11 Madison.
11 Madison Park. Yeah. That's amazing. It's a great book.
Yeah, I picked it up at the bookstore the other day, and I was like, I have too many books. I need to force myself to finish some books. I'm in the middle of like 7 right now. So, all right.
I love it. 2 pivot people. Who are 2 people that have changed the direction of your life?
My husband, for sure.
Love that.
And not to sound like a big kiss ass, but you, Brandon.
Oh, no way. Hey,
yeah,
you're awesome.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago that I was working that crappy music business job doing Seth Mosley's marketing at CSAC. And
shout out to Seth Mosley. What's up, buddy?
He doesn't even know. He has no idea who I am. I would go on runs after work trying to figure out like the thing that we're gonna do to try and at the time just build a retirement fund, and listening to you and Bigger Pockets, and it wasn't like I've got a 12-step process and you give me $20,000 and I'm gonna teach you exactly what to do. It was like, this guy's totally relatable.
Yeah.
He's a guy, sounds like a normal guy, I assume at the time.
You're way off on that.
And he's been able to do this, so like we can probably figure this out. And it was just seeing someone normal be able to do it that was relatable for me. So anyway, I'm done kissing your ass now.
That's awesome. Thank you. Made my day. All right, last question of this segment. A pivot quote. Is there a quote you live by or that you just absolutely love?
Yes, I love the quote. I believe it was by Thomas Edison, and he said, many people, I'm going to butcher it, most people miss out on opportunity because it shows up in overalls and looks like hard work.
Yeah, I love that quote too.
Yeah.
It's a great
That's solid. All right.
Next segment, past, present, future. We'll look at past you, present you, and future you. So let's start with past. What advice would you give to 20-year-old you?
You couldn't tell her anything.
It wouldn't work. It would not work.
No. No, I mean, start earlier. Like, could have, there's a few bad decisions here and there, but, everything led me to exactly where I am, where we are, and happy to be here. So I wouldn't change anything.
What is something you've done in your life in the last 12 months that's improved it? Could be a habit, routine, tactic, something like that.
I've started playing pickleball.
That's fun.
Yes. Yeah. So I am like we were talking about earlier, sometimes don't want to go to the gym, but also like I know I go on podcasts a lot, but I am an extreme introvert. So doing that has helped with both of those things, with making sure I get that exercise in, and then also like actually talking to other human beings at some point during the week. Yeah. So it's been great. It's been a lot of fun. I get my ass beat by 80-year-olds.
Yeah, they're so good.
They're so good.
I used to play racquetball against like 80-year-olds, and like it'd be 15-0. Like I mean, like you score one. It's not like pickleball. How's pickleball scored? It's like, is it like it's 1, 2, 3, 4?
It's really,
or is it 15, 30, 45 love, or that whole thing? That's tennis, right?
That's tennis.
It's 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, yeah. So we played 15 in racquetball, and I would just lose 15-0 every single time. Yeah, like, you're 80. You have like a hip replacement, and you hobble around on a walker, and you're just killing me.
Pickleball players are sneaky.
Yeah,
They look. Some of them look very unathletic, and they will work you.
Yes,
they have you running all over the court. So I love pickleball.
All right.
Perfect. Though, what do you want? Actually, I'm not gonna say what do you want your legacy to be. I'm gonna ask, what do you want your kids to say about you when you're gone?
When I'm gone, that's a great question. I mean, while I'm here, I want them when they're grown and they don't need me anymore to want me to be around. So I hope that we're raising them in such a way that that's the outcome. That they know, we don't just love them, that we cherish them, and we hope that they want us around when they get older.
What are you doing to do that? I think that's one of Lexi and I's, like, we want our kids to want to be around us forever. What are you doing to foster that?
We are like, our daughter's going to hate us probably, actually, now that I think about this. Like, we're both going to all the practices. We're both at tennis practice. We're both at soccer. I coach their soccer teams. As a matter of fact, actually, my daughter, I won a Big 12 championship at Texas. I'm probably the most qualified soccer coach in the county. And she was 4. I'd been coaching her team for like 3 seasons. And she was like, Mom, do I get a real soccer coach this year or just you again? So she's already like, okay, Mom, get away. We like to do a lot of experiences. So music is very important to our family. Luke and I are both ex-touring musicians. And so we like to take our kids to see the greats before they're all dead. Like we took them to see Kiss's last show last year at Madison Square Garden. We go to Disney World a lot because we live right around the corner.
Creed? Is Creed on that list?
No, Creed's not on that list. They've seen a lot of good ones. They've seen AC/DC. AC/DC's hard to see nowadays. Yeah. Who else have they seen? The Eagles. They've seen Billy Joel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they've seen some cool ones. And
were you into any like good rock bands?
Yeah.
Were you into just like the old classic rap?
No.
Hey, she talked about Alice Cooper earlier. Aren't you neighbors with him?
I am neighbors with Alice Cooper.
Good old Alice Cooper.
That's pretty cool.
I've never seen him. Store.
Have you? I might have.
He does not look like Alice Cooper.
Yeah, I don't know what you look like.
He's almost 80.
Yeah, he looks it.
Yeah. People always say they see him just like shopping at Safeway. And I'm like, I don't know what to look for, but he's apparently here.
Oh, they've seen the Rolling Stones. They saw the Rolling Stones this year. Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. So all the greats before they're gone, and then we'll come back to people that are still alive.
All right, I love it. Let's wrap things up.
All right.
Number 1, what are you excited about? What's coming up in your life, business, whatever that you're just pumped about in the future?
Well, I'm real excited about the real estate market getting back on track.
Yeah. It feels like we're moving. Yeah, it feels like we're moving in a good direction.
Yeah. I think we're moving in a good direction there. I'm excited too. So we had a apartment building burn down.
Oof.
That's we're towards the tail end of getting that back up. It was really scary because it happened.
It happened to this other one.
I know. It didn't happen to the bad one. It happened to the best one, the best performing one. But it was it's a bunch of buildings, and it only happened to one building. So it's only 6 of like the 36 units that were affected. But that sucked. But now we've been through that, and we understand how to deal with it in the future. Excited for that to be back on track. Buying a new short-term rental. That's pretty exciting.
Where's that one at?
It's in the Smokies.
In the Smokies?
Yeah, it's just so easy to just add properties to a system you've already built. Like I've been round and round with Luke about this. I'm like, we're going to buy in a ski market and we're going to buy in the Texas Hill Country because I miss Texas. And then finally we're like, okay, it's just easy to buy where we already own.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to, it's my son's first T-ball season this year.
Awesome.
So looking forward to that. And always looking forward to, my daughter does theater. And so she's doing Shrek this season. And so that'll be, around Christmas that she does that production, I guess it's called. I was not in theater, so I don't know
Just
the lingo.
terminology.
Yeah,
I was in theater.
You
yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it's been so good. We didn't have that. We didn't have that at my school. We had it, but it wasn't I don't know. They didn't put a lot of money into it or anything, but we've just got the cutest community theater that has the cutest kids programs. And I think it really does, outside of, if you don't want to be an actor or anything when you grow up, it helps a lot with public speaking.
So much. Yeah.
That's awesome. So much. All right. Where can people find you at?
Yeah, you can find me at theshorttermshop.com or at the Short Term Shop on Instagram. I also have a new second short-term rental book coming out with Bigger Pockets.
Ooh, nice.
And you can find that, or at least the pre-order, at biggerpockets.com/smarterstr.
When does that come out?
February.
Very cool.
Awesome.
All right. This has been amazing. Thank you. I was doing the math on when this episode comes out, but we'll figure it out. Probably right around.
Yeah.
All right. You're amazing. Thank you. I always love talking with you. So we'll talk again soon.
All right. Thanks so much.
Boom. Boom.
And that, my friends, is the show. Thank you for tuning in. And hey, before you go, if you enjoyed this episode or if you just enjoy the show in general, please consider leaving us a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. We really do value your feedback, and we read the comments. We make future decisions about topics and guests and everything else. Plus, it helps us reach more people, and the more reviews we get, the more people hear it and watch the show and share it, and it's awesome. Last but not least, please head over to social media. Consider befriending me, following me, subscribing to all that stuff at Better Life and my personal page at Beardy Brandon, especially over on Instagram, YouTube, and really everywhere else. So thank you again for listening. I'm honored that you would bring me along on your journey toward building wealth through real estate investing without losing your soul. Now, this show is about living a better life, but if you want my opinion on what it takes to live the best life ever, just go to abetterlife.com/best life to hear some of my views on life and spirituality. I think you'll like it. abetterlife.com/best life. With that said, thanks for listening to the show. We'll see you next week.